Delighted to be here tonight to share with you some of the things that I've learned about stress. For when I started in nursing school, my instructor in college back in the 60s said that 85% of all disease and illness was due to stress. At that moment, the light bulb went on in my mind, and I thought, well, why aren't we helping people get rid of their stress instead of trying to treat them once they get sick? Why can't we prevent that by helping them get rid of their stress? So I call my business Life Quest because it's been my life quest since then to try to help people reduce their stress so they don't have to get sick and actually get well faster. And so that's the kind of quest I set out on. Now, for 25 years, I taught stress management. And I thought I had this down. You know, I read everything in the marketplace about stress, and I thought I had this pretty well covered. But then one day, in October of 1978, I was sitting on my sofa that morning, and I just didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to go anywhere. I pulled the cover over my head, and I just thought, I wish I could disappear for 3 months and start over again. I don't know if you've ever felt that way, but I know a lot of people in my workshops have said yes to that question. And where I was at that point, it was like I was overcooked. I was raising 2 pre-adolescent kids. I had a household to run, a husband. I was going to school full-time, and I had a home-based business. My father had passed away the month before, in August, and then my mother came to live with me the following month because she was sick. And so it was just one thing too many. I was overcooked. Stick a fork in. It was done. And I thought to myself as I had that cover over my head, this doesn't make any sense because I know better. I already know all this information about how to combat stress. And I'm sure you've been to stress workshops. If you're interested in this workshop, I'm sure that you've been to others. And so that's when I finally realized that having all that information wasn't enough. I needed more. I needed to understand more about the context of stress and what to do right then in that moment. Because, you know, your notes are out somewhere and you can't even find them. Your mind is gone. You can't find a logical explanation or a logical solution. And that's where I was at that point. And I thought, wow, this doesn't make any sense. But afterwards, it made a lot of sense. And what I've discovered is what I've put in this book, 34 Instant Stress Busters. And what this is something you can just open to a tip and do it. And that's what I'm going to share with you tonight. Some of those quick tips that you can do without any extra time or money. And if you understand what stress really is, well, then it's easy to understand how to get out of it really quick. So the first question I have for you is, what is stress? Okay, so what stresses you? Think about that for a moment. Think of like 1 or 2 things that stress you. And I'm going to project out here if I don't see any comments. Okay, if I'm not seeing any comments. So what stresses you? I'm going to project out what stresses a lot of people. Too much to do and not enough time to get it done. How about the past? Things that you are worried about in the past and are still bothering you. Things about the future. Worry, if you're a worrier. All of those qualities, all of those things that stress you that have to do with the past, the future, and the present, not having enough time, are all about time. Then the next thing that stresses us a lot is change. Just the change in the world, the change in our lives, change in technology. Change is happening faster and faster. What about people getting sick? Okay, so maybe you're taking care of parents or you're taking care of children and you can't control what happens there. We're going to change the time tonight, okay, so in terms of daylight savings time, we're going to go back to standard time. So we're going to fall back. Changing the time, changing the weather, all of that has an effect on people. These all come under the category of nature. We don't have any control over nature. Nature is just the nature of things, how it is. And then the big list usually is other people. That's your kids, your parents, your coworkers, your boss. It doesn't. Don't think like you. They don't do what you think they should do. All of those kinds of things. So if you think about time, nature, those are the main categories. Money comes under any one of those, or maybe all of them. But money is an exchange of energy, and so sometimes it has to do with you don't have enough time to put in the time to your job, or maybe the nature of your job doesn't earn you that much money, whatever that is. But time, nature, and other people. So if you think about the common thread, what do all of these things have in common? There's just one thing. There's just one thing that causes all stress. That's it. You don't have control. You have no control over any of that. Anything outside of you, time, nature, and other people, you have no control over. The only thing you have control over is yourself. What you think, how you feel, and what you choose. In fact, your choice is the most powerful thing you've got. So most of the time, we're not taking charge of that. We're not taking control over those things that we have control of, and we're letting go, we're trying to control all this stuff that is out of our hands, that we have no control over. And that's what causes us the most stress. That is the bottom line on stress. When you're feeling stressed, you're feeling it in your body. You're feeling it in your cellular experience. You might be feeling it in your chest, in your stomach, your head. Maybe people get headaches, your back. Most of us have symptoms that tell us, clues that tell us we're stressed. At that point, the first thing to understand is you're feeling out of control. And the second thing to understand is how to get back in control. That's the key to stress busting, is getting back in control fast. So how can you do that? Well, the book's divided into 5 sections, and I'm going to go through some of the quick tips right now. These are things you can do without extra time or money. Not yoga, it's not meditation. Those are great, but they take a little bit of learning. They have a learning curve to them. You might have to spend some money to learn from somebody, take some classes, whatever. That's great. But what I found when I was on the sofa that day with the cover over my head is all of that logic went out the window. I needed something immediately, something really fast. So what I figured out, for me, my first step is to take a deep breath. Now, you've heard that before. You've learned that before. You've been breathing all your life. But you never think about taking a deep breath at that moment. At that moment, you're stressed. You're feeling out of control. You're holding your breath. You're breathing shallow. Taking a deep breath is one of the first simple things you can do to take control back. Think of it as taking back control of your body, of your breathing. You know, the body only needs 5 things to stay well. It needs food, air, water, sun, movement, and sleep. I put those in one category. Now think about it this way. The food we're eating has a lot of chemicals in it and is processed and isn't really whole food. It's not giving you the energy you need to deal with the stresses in your life. Our air is polluted. Our water is polluted. We're told not to be out in the sun anymore without chemicals on our skin. And how much sleep do you get every night? And are you moving? Are you getting some stretching in? Okay, so these are the 5 things you need for your body to combat the stresses that you're under. Well, if you're not getting those simple things, that's one of the ways that you can take control back. Eating more whole foods, filter your water, get out in the fresh air and take a deep breath once in a while. Most of us we go from our insulated car to our insulated office, back to our car, back to our home, and we're not getting out in the fresh air and breathing in that air that the trees are able to clean for us. Okay, so that fresh air, filter your water and get some sun, 10 minutes of sun a day, and you'll get that vitamin D. You're hearing more and more about how vitamin D is deficient in our lives. So how can you take control back? One way is taking it back physically. Taking back what you eat, how you nurture yourself, and give yourself the energy to combat the stresses your body's under. Second way is for your mind. Okay, so taking back control of your mind. You need to understand that your mind is just a computer, basically. It only knows the past. It has cataloged everything that's ever happened to you. So when something happens and you are reacting to it, you're reacting to it out of some experience you had in the past. How can you begin to take control back of your mind? Okay, I did a program today for some people who have fibromyalgia. Physical disease, remember my instructor said 85% of disease and illness is due to stress. Well, I'd have to tell you, they have no cause for fibromyalgia, but we know that most people who have it had an event that happened in their past that shook up their system and set in motion this disease that is what we call autoimmune. The body's fighting against itself. What can you do? Well, take back control of your mind. Your mind knows the past. It's conditioned. Just like, if you thought about a lemon right now, let's say that you imagine a lemon in your hand, and you see how yellow that lemon is, and you cut it in half, and you kind of smell it, and you can see the juice coming out of it. I'll bet everyone listening right now is salivating. Okay? It's a conditioned response. Pavlov's dog. You're just automatically respond to that stimulus. Well, this is what happens when somebody says something or something happens in the workplace and you're triggered. It's like someone pushed your buttons. They created a remembering of some other time when that happened, and you are just reacting. So how can you take back control of your mind? Well, one way is, most of the time we're thinking negative stuff because we're feeding our mind negative stuff. How much do you listen to the news? Are you listening to the news all day long? I know I was in the courthouse about 2 weeks ago, and they had a TV up on the shelf, and it was on CNN. And for the hour and a half I was sitting there, the repeating of these stories over and over again with very charged language. I mean, you could really become depressed just listening to the news. Turn off the news and start feeding your mind something positive. A very simple thing you can do. Your mind is a catalog, right? It's just got all those file folders of all the past events. Ask yourself a positive question. You can ask yourself, what am I grateful for right now? What's going right? Okay? We're used to thinking about what's going wrong and what's terrible in the world. So ask yourself the question, what's right now in this moment? What's good? What am I grateful for? Got a roof over my head. I have a bed to sleep in tonight. Personally, in the morning, I go into the bathroom and I think, how great is it to have indoor plumbing? I know that sounds funny, but it is. A lot of the world doesn't have that. Okay, so I feel very grateful. Just turning your mind a little bit. This is something you have control of. Asking yourself a positive question that has a positive answer. As soon as you do that, interesting thing is, your mind starts to build a case. It thinks of 5 more things you're grateful for. Okay, so whatever track your mind is on, you can move it to a new track by just asking the right question, by just asking yourself what's right. what am I grateful for, instead of what's wrong. And that's usually what we're focusing on. So that's how to take control of your mind. How about your emotions? The emotions, what happens when we're stressed, we're not in control, right? So as soon as you feel like you're not in control, here comes the fight, flight, or freeze response. You're ready to attack other people, and we see this all the time on Facebook, don't we? You know, people just complaining about other people, yada, yada. Or we withdraw and don't want to talk to anybody, or we get really stuck. And those stuck froze response are things like fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, a lot of those illnesses, cancer, which feels that stuck feeling gets stuck in your body. So how can you take charge of your emotions? Well, I'll tell you what, the best technique I ever found is in the book. It's tip 21, tap on it. Now, you may have seen this on Dr. Oz or on Oprah. This is a tapping technique that is acupuncture without the needles. It operates on the same principle as acupuncture, but without the needles. So you're just tapping on these points. Now, we don't have time tonight to teach you the whole technique and all the innuendos of how it works. But I will say that if you go to YouTube or if you go to my website, AylahSpeaks.com, and click on E as in Edward, F as in Francis, T as in Thomas, EFT, right there is a video that will show you exactly how to do this technique. But for right now, let's take a try at it so that you can experience how it works. This is a physical technique. It works on your body. It's not psychological. It's not, cognitive. It really works on your physical stress. So if you think about something that stresses you right now, one of those things we talked about earlier, time pressures, nature, change, or other people, probably just think about another person that stresses you. And immediately you'll start to feel the stress come up in your body. You might be getting a kind of stress in your back, headache, your heart's beating a little faster, or maybe a little pressure on your heart, or your stomach is churning. Think about something that stresses you right now and feel that symptom. Now, we're going to try this little technique and see how it works for you. It's good. Just follow me. Do what I do and say what I say. First, notice, how bad is this stressing you? 0 to 10, how bad does it feel? Okay? Maybe it's a 4 or 5 or even an 8. Okay? Something that's stressing you right now. I want you to focus on that stressor and that reaction you're getting in your body. Now, on the side of your palm, what we call the karate chop point, where you would chop a karate board, you're going to tap. And as you're tapping, say, even though this thing stresses me, and fill in the blank with what stresses you, this person stresses me, even though I have this reaction, whatever your reaction is, fill in the blank, this heart beating, this stomach churning, this back ache, this headache, I deeply and completely accept myself. And one more time, even though I have this ache, pain, concern, stress, I deeply and completely accept myself. Now you're doing on the top of your head, a little tap where the baby soft spot would be, between your eyes, right on the eyebrow, near your nose, either side, it doesn't matter. You're going to tap and focus on the stressor. Focus on that person or situation that's stressing you. Side of your eye, right on the other part of your eyebrow, on the bone. Under your eye, right under the iris. Under your nose. In the chin groove, right here. Focus on this person, situation that's stressing you right now. And notice if that has changed, if that symptom has changed already. The collarbone point, there's a U-shaped bone here, and there's a knob to either side. About an inch down under that knob is your collarbone point. Just tapping a little bit there while you're thinking about and focusing on the stressor and the physical reaction you're having to that stressor. And then under your arm, about 2 inches under your armpit. And then take a deep breath and relax. Now for most of you, that stressor, if you think about that person or situation again, the reaction's not so bad. It may still be there, but maybe not at the same level of intensity as it was before. If it's the same as it was before, there are other points that you can use on your fingers and even your wrists. So what you'll do is go look at that video and do the additional points. I wish I could talk to you personally and really work through this with one of you so that you could actually see how it works. But you can reduce the stress in the moment. This works great for cravings. If you're trying to lose weight or you're trying to quit smoking or anything like that, it will also reduce the craving, because cravings and addictions are usually result in, they're really the solution to stress that isn't working anymore, that's actually causing you more side effects. So this is an alternative that works really well. So that's one way to deal with emotions. How about your spirit? How about spiritual stress? Spiritual stress has nothing to do with religion. What it has to do with is feeling alone and feeling isolated and feeling like there's nobody you can really turn to. That's stress of the spirit. The first step in dealing with that is reconnecting to your spirit, to who you are, to what's important to you, or to just the things that make you feel better. Okay, so think about spirit, for instance, as reconnecting to your nature, to who you are. You can go out in nature, connecting with nature itself, going out in the fresh air, in a grove of trees, flowers, and just reconnecting with nature itself, with earth itself. In fact, I just saw a special video on YouTube this week that talked about earthing. It's just standing outside barefooted in the grass, how that ions balance your body again. So just being in nature will help you to reclaim the energy and rebalance yourself. So that's one way. Now maybe you can't go outside based on your job and so on. You can even use images of nature, pictures, flowers, anything inside that will remind you of those scenes in nature that bring you back home to yourself. How about music? Now we all know that there are certain music that you can put that on, it's a vibration. And there are certain musical vibrations that just make you feel better. They bring you back to yourself. I love Latin rhythms myself, and I put that on and I'm back, okay? Just put some of that music in your car, in your home. Have it ready on your computer, on your iPod, and have that music available to you to bring you back. Fragrance is another one. Sound and sight, images. So even a picture. I've got a picture in the book. In fact, we can try this one. This is an emotional technique. Just smile. Now say, I'm depressed. I'm depressed. Okay, say it while you're smiling. Does it work? No, you're not depressed. You're feeling good. Why? Because smiling, I don't know if that is, hello? That's not him. I'm sorry about that. So smiling is a conditioned response where as soon as you smile, it's just like smelling that lemon. As soon as you smile, you're triggering your mind to create endorphins because it thinks you're happy even if you're not in that moment. So smiling is one way to just immediately get yourself back. You're taking an action that gets you back in control. Like I said, fragrances and pictures. In the book, I have a picture of my 2 granddaughters who they transplanted these flowers. Actually, they were dead plants in my driveway, weeds, and they transplanted them into these pots, and it's the first time they ever planted anything. So they're so proud of themselves with these little pots with the little dead flowers in them. And every time I look at that picture, I have to smile. So that's why I put it in the book as under that category of smile. So that's one of the things. Quick things that you can do to take back control of your body, your mind, your emotions, your spirit. What about relationships? Other people's the long list of the things that stress us. Generally, everyone else who's not thinking or feeling the way we do. And so one of the ways to deal with other people's stress is to, number one, take a look at your fingertip. Take a look at your fingertip for a minute and recognize that on that fingertip is proof positive you're one of a kind. There isn't anyone else who thinks exactly like you do, who feels exactly like you do, and who wants exactly what you want. Not one other person. My sister and I grew up and we have the same gene pool. We came out of the same household, and we are completely different. So you just imagine how everyone else in the world has come from a different background, a different gene pool. Just is unique, just like you, on those fingertips. So when we finally let go of trying to control other people, the world gets a lot less stressful. So understanding it doesn't matter who's right or wrong. Let go of who's right and who's wrong. The salve for relationship stress is curiosity. How can you and I be listening to the same program to Ayla saying these things and come up with 2 different ways to look at it? Well, chances are every person who's listening tonight is looking at it from a different perspective, is picking up on different techniques or different tools that really resonate with them. That's normal. And some people may not get it at all, which is fine as well. So letting go of that idea that there's one right way to think, one right way to be, and it's my way or the highway, and then getting all stressed because people are not getting your message the way you think they should. That word should is a good one. How should I be? A lot of us grew up with messages that said, you should be one way or you should be another way. And so we're hearing this little chatter in our mind that says, and I'm looking here, okay, and it looks like my time might be up. So don't should on yourself or anyone else, and we're going to get back to Victor now and let him take over the show from this point on. I hope you've gotten something from tonight's program. I've given you just a few of the tips that I've got available for you, and I hope you'll reconnect with me through my website, aylaspeaks.com.